crazy and amazing at the same time.
It reminds me of like right before you go to bed, how you feel your sheets and then you hop right in.
It reminds me of like I'm in the ground, like thorns kind of that just grow in there, or roots.
It makes me feel like warm and safe.
It reminds me of a little meadow where there are tons of colorful flowers and there's a waterfall.
I do a lot of installations and students tend to be my best audience. My work is kind of strange and I feel like it's not always relatable to a lot of adults, like my family. Felt is one of the oldest textiles known to people. They still use it in industry today in a lot of factories. It serves as like buffers between machine parts. There's still people in Mongolia and China, nomadic cultures that live in yurts, and they cover the yurts with felt. It's just a real sustainable material. It's got good insulation properties. It's pretty much waterproof, pretty much fireproof. I mean, I spray myself with this hose 1,000,000 times a day, so this wool is actually really hard to get thoroughly wet. Once you get it wet and kind of rolled up, you want to agitate it and roll it for like several minutes, sometimes up to an hour or two. It causes the fibers to bind together. Animal fibers have scales on the shafts, and they'll chemically bond together and make a fabric. The project's based on cave formations, which there's some metaphorical, conceptual stuff behind it, but a lot of it is I just love geology and rocks. I want to use mostly monochromatic limestone colors, but then I want the bright color stuff to be peeking out through it. Oh, this will end up covered with the felt and the fabric, and it's fun. It's just, I'm not a metal worker. Only had one person show me how to weld, and then I just kind of looked at YouTube videos and, you know. Nice. There you go. Megan, she told me she selected me for this project in this particular school because I didn't think in a linear fashion, kind of like their whole pedagogical methods, I guess. As part of my work as an artist, there's always a push-pull between geometry and organic, fluid, curvilinear forms, and I saw that very much happening in theory in their school. They've brought in these new curricular ideas where, every aspect of their curriculum, from math to science to writing, is all arts-based. And not just like visual art, but music, theater, and performance, and it's all tied together. They don't isolate the subjects into separate categories because that's not how the real world works. I mean, it's actually a pretty interesting, art and math especially, everybody sees them as these separate fields, and some of the greatest mathematicians out there were also artists. Well, I'm hanging this, I don't know what you would call it, this big kind of curtain, and it's gonna swoop down along this wall. The initial thought was to allow the children to walk through the piece, but now it's probably going to be more of a piece where they can walk around it but not necessarily through it. There's also an interior segment to this project where I'm going to have some pieces on the ceiling of their entrance. You can walk through the entrance and you'll be fully immersed by the piece on the interiors. Concept is important for me, but mostly as a point of departure. I'm an artist who, just loves to do the work. I I like to research the work too, but I like to, make it kind of ambiguous so the viewer can bring their own perspective into the piece. And I think kids are really good at that. I think they don't look for a lot of deep meaning, but it's always kind of surprising. Some of them do find like some really interesting insights into the work that I haven't really considered before. So they're so imaginative and creative themselves, and a lot of times they'll say, "Why don't you try this?" or "Have you ever thought about doing this?" And they're like budding, little art critics, and they're great. No, I mean, I think that's amazing.
I think it's an amazing piece of art because, it's all around. It's in that nook and outside, and I think it brings joy and comfort.
I think it's cool how she did wire and that you can pick it up and touch it.
The artwork is kind of abstract. It's not supposed to be anything. It's supposed to be imagination or what you think it is. I think it's super cool.
When I see it, I think it's a work of art that are just made out of random materials, and it just looks beautiful every way. It's chaotic, it's amazing, and it's very colorful.
That hallway used to be just plain, but now it's all sorts of coolness. And the outside part, it used to just be bushes. Now it's really cool to look at.
We went down for music, and it helped us learn how to express ourselves using music. Everybody was grabbing tubanos and more metal instruments.
Wind chimes.
Oh, I really want that.
I have 2 different range picks, cabasas. I have a few sizes. Reach in front of you and feel the artist.
We did how it made us feel representing it with music.
9, 10, and freeze.
We kind of made the shapes with our body, and then what we think it represents.
1, 2, 3, and freeze like part of the sculpture. Can you freeze and not move? Oh, I love these. We have some low shapes. We have some medium shapes. All right, so let's try that. Thinking of texture. Smooth. Is it sharp? Nice. I love this. She's moving like an ocean and a wave.
You're dancing with it, and you can show your moves and how you feel, and it just making you feel more excited and happy.
What grade are you guys in?
We're in 4th grade.
Well, thank you for serving as docents tonight. You guys must be pretty knowledgeable about the piece.
But if you don't want any docents, you can just go up to your art, which you know where it is.
Artist Meredith Setser.
It's right here.
The best part about this project are the students and the response, and they're playing music and they're making their own work.
And I love particularly going down with all the pinwheels, all the colorful.
One of the students responded. I thought this was the greatest response ever. She said, "This piece makes me feel like I'm not even in school." I thought that was awesome.